Well folks, we've reached that time of the year. Time to get out the mini crawlers. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today, as you might have guessed, we are looking at this. This is the Eachine FMS Toyota FJ Cruiser 1/18 scale crawler. I've been looking at mini crawlers and micro crawlers for a while now. I hadn't really been taken by anything, nothing really kind of struck me. And then I spotted this on Banggood. I don't go on Banggood very often anymore, but I spotted this the other day and I just thought I've got to have that. That looks so cool. So I ordered it a week ago and here it is. Can't fault that delivery time, actually that's pretty good. So really happy about that. But enough of that, let's get on with it. So it is, as you can see, a 1/18 scale Toyota FJ Cruiser. It is a licensed body. It's a hard body, all of that kind of stuff. It runs on 2S. There's loads of info on the packaging, which hopefully you will be able to read. If not, you can pause that for a second. Pretty nice packaging, actually. Nice box art. There's two different types of box art, actually, I've seen on this. I prefer the other type, the black one, but hey, you know, it is just a box. So, without any further ado, let's get on to the main event and have a look at this thing. So the first thing to notice is you do get it in this lovely protective box that it comes in. The exterior box that it arrived in had a couple of knocks on the way, nothing too major, but this is held up beautifully, no damage or marks anywhere on that, so well done FMS for some quality packaging there. So this is what we're going to get in the box. First of all, you're going to get a little note to say don't leave it plugged in if you're not using it. Might seem silly, but that's sage advice. As somebody who likes an on-off switch, I have been known to leave it plugged in way too long. There is a user manual, which is in English and Chinglish. It's not too bad, actually. There's some interesting use of phraseology, but it's pretty good. You can make sense of it all, which is great. It's only just a black and white thing. It does list a load of spare parts in the back, which is quite useful. So we may need that at some point. Hopefully not, though. You get your little baggie that contains a USB charger and a T-wrench. I'm not a big fan of these USB balance chargers, to be honest. I think LiPo batteries need care, and I'm not really sure how well these balance charge. But we'll see, we'll try it out and we'll find out if it can accurately balance. There's two cells in the battery that comes with it, and there we go, tiny little T-wrench. And then we have the wonderful, beautiful, fabulous FJ Cruiser. Some more polystyrene. And the controller. And that's it. That's all you get in the box. But that's all you need in the box. So let's have a look at this thing. I mean, first impressions, straight out the packaging, looks great. It looks great. Really nice scale body, lovely scale detail. Nice little windscreen wipers, roof bars, the mirrors. Not sure if this will come across. The mirrors are actually reflective, and obviously we've got some light sets on the front and on the back, and a little number plate, spare, what looks to be a fully functional spare wheel, which is good, and a fantastic little interior, which the camera probably won't pick up very well, but it is quite nice, quite detailed. It's got a little dial pod on the front of the dashboard there, seats front and back, and just some empty space in the boot or the trunk for my American friends. As with a lot of these, the This is a hard body. It is sprung friction suspension, so it's wibbly wobbly. Not sure about that yet. We'll see. See how that goes. We might try and do something with that a little bit further down the line. And then, as is usually the case, all of the electronics are under the hood or the bonnet, depending on where you're from. Fairly straightforward setup. There is a small compartment at the back for the battery, and then the ESC and receiver and all that kind of stuff is in the front here. There is a little on-off switch, which is great. I like an on-off switch. And that's it. So underneath we've got 3-link suspension up front, and there is a panhard and obviously steering link. I think the panhard is definitely having an effect on the suspension there when you press one side against the other, but I don't think that'll matter hugely. And then 4-link suspension in the rear, which is fairly standard. Flex, I'm not sure flex is much of a thing with these. Is not too bad, but it's not massive. Yeah, this is not a pure crawling machine. It's, you know, it's a scale trail truck really. But you never know, it might be pretty capable. We'll find out. Nice soft tyres. Compound doesn't feel super sticky, but they are a lovely scale tread. Look really good, and they are Terraz something. So they're not licensed tyres unless it's a manufacturer I've never heard of. But yeah, it's a great looking thing. I mean, that looks fantastic. I think that looks absolutely brilliant. Really like the way that looks. So let's get it switched on. So the radio that it comes with, oh, it's quite funky actually. It's not bad, you know. It's small enough that you can drive it one-handed. There's plenty of option to thumb steer, which is pretty good. And it's got a bunch of functions under the case, under the cover there. So it's got steering trim, throttle trim. It actually says 6 channels. I'm pretty sure most of those are not in use. But I think this is the same radio that comes with the 1/12 Willys Jeep, which has quite a bit more functionality. So, and it has 2 modes. I mean, I won't go into too much detail. We can do a deep dive at a later stage if you guys want to see that. But there are 2 modes that the transmitter works in. And what that does, I think, basically, if you're in mode A, that's kind of all your trim type functions. So the trim buttons work as trim buttons, as you would expect. But if you're in mode B, then the trim buttons have a secondary function. So it's basically a second set of functions for these buttons. There is a factory reset button. There is a reverse angle, so you can reverse the servos, which under normal circumstances probably not that much use. But if at some point you need to replace the servo or you need to replace the motor and you do it with a different one, that could be quite useful if you wanted to just reverse the motor or reverse the steering. There are another couple of buttons here. So the channel 4 button is shown as train, which I assume is the bind button if you're binding, but it comes pre-bound. Channel 5 lists channel 5 or climbing, so more on that later. And channel 6, as far as I can tell, doesn't do anything. So you may have already guessed from this that I have already had this out of the box and had a little play with it before this video. Had to do that to make sure everything worked beforehand. So let's power it up and we'll see what it's like. So the first thing to notice is the groovy little flashing lights on the radio. It's got its own headlights, which is funky. I'll connect up the battery. They should stop flashing as soon as I switch this on, and it all binds up together. So as you can see already, I've got the LEDs on. I am a sucker for an LED, but let's switch those off for now. So we want to just do that, and we're off. Okay, so at that point, so first option there is everything off. So 1 beep is everything off. No headlights, no reverse, no. Do we get reversing lights? We still get reversing lights. but no steering indicators at that point. If we press the LED button again, we'll get the low beam headlights, which are just kind of marker lights. Press it again, we'll get full beam or brighter lights. And at this point on both of these options, the indicators on the front do flash when you steer. Next mode will give us high beam lights and hazards, and the final one is just the indicators and nothing else. In all of those modes, those rear lights light up when you reverse, but they're not lit all the time. So I'm going to have to look into that, because I'm not really bothered about having reverse lights. I'd much rather those lights were on full time whenever I switch the headlights on. So what does it drive like? That's the next big question. Actually, it drives pretty well. It's got a fairly slow crawl, but as you can hear, it is quite noisy. Like a lot of these micros, actually, it is quite noisy at that low speed. That's the ESC from what I can gather. I've had a look at a few videos online, and changing the ESC can get rid of that noise. But as you can see, that slow speed modulation is pretty good. I think that's really impressive. And full speed is that, which is not very fast. So, but then you don't buy these things to race them, do you? You buy them to crawl them over obstacles. Now the interesting thing I have found with it is the drag brake. So as we said before, there is an option on here, which is the channel 5 button, which you might be able to see there, which is also labelled as climbing. So if that's on, or off, sorry, that's really quite easy to push. There's not much resistance in the drag brake at that point. If you press that again, that is much harder, much stiffer, and that's definitely the drag brake fully engaged at that point. Doesn't seem to affect anything else. Need to set the trim up because it's clearly wandering. And one of the things that I do quite like about this, which I've seen on others but is not quite so evident here, is that it's not pulling left and right too much with the steering. It is a little bit, so there's not too much bump steer, and it does seem to only be on one side. There we go. What a fantastic little thing. I absolutely love this. I'm going to take it out. I may take it up to my usual kind of rocks, see how it gets on up there. I don't expect this to be an amazing crawler. I don't expect to do particularly well up on those rocks, but I've had a couple of tests with it in the garden before I did this video, like I say, just to make sure everything was working, and actually I was quite pleasantly surprised. It's pretty good. It was bumping over our kind of dry stone rock wall that we have without too much effort, getting caught up here and there. Tried it on a wooden board at 45 degrees in the garage, and it went up there fine, no problem at all. And that's where I discovered the drag brake setting, because it just rolled straight back down again as soon as I took it off the throttle. So we tried that climbing option out, and it held absolutely rock solid at 45 degrees. So that's pretty good, which does suggest to me, that these tyres are probably reasonably grippy. So we'll look forward to giving it a try. I mean, obviously that pingy suspension is going to cause some havoc on some bumpy ground. We'll see if we need to do something about that to try and make it a bit more capable. The other thing I'm doing is I'm going to build a small crawler course in my garden, so stay tuned for that, but that's a long way off being ready, so we'll worry about that another day. But for the meantime, I think that's enough as a quick unboxing and overview. I'll cut to some run footage so you can see what it goes like, and we'll have a bit of a think about anything that it might need doing to it once I've had a bit of a decent run out with it. I suspect we'll try and damp that suspension somehow, either with some grease or maybe some oil-filled shocks, but I don't want to change it. I don't want to be buying you know, another £100 worth of stuff for it. I'd much rather try and keep it as standard as possible and just change the very basics just to try and smooth that out a little bit. But there we have it. If you like this, I will put a link in the description to Banggood, where I got this from. I'm sure you can probably get it from other places, but I know that they've definitely got it at the moment. It cost me about £122, I think, which is great. For those of you who are watching in the UK, that means it's under the customs threshold, so you shouldn't get any customs charges for that, and that does include VAT, apparently. Now, the mistake I made was buying the single battery version. There is a 2 battery version, which is the one I'll link to in the description. I would suggest getting that, really. The battery time apparently reports as 30 minutes, which is not bad. But I foolishly, despite seeing other YouTubers and reviewers say, "Ooh, you won't get any different size batteries in that battery compartment," I foolishly thought, well, I've got loads of little tiny drone batteries. I'm sure I can fit some in there. I can't. There's a couple that might fit if I take the Dremel to the inside of the bonnet. We'll have a look at doing that, maybe, but maybe not. And the other thing I'm thinking about doing is just 3D printing some little accessories, some little scale accessories to go on the roof, because I think they'll look cool. And that's it. So we'll cut to that outside footage, we'll see how it performs, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, so slight technical problem. Managed to get out to the rocks yesterday in my lunch break. Forgot to charge the camera battery. Camera went dead after about 30 seconds. Haven't had a chance to go out since, but I have managed to do some quick recording in the garden around a bit of a garden track across the wall. So have a look at that, see what you think. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.